welcome into Big Ten Today, brought to you by Gatorade. Thrilled to have you here. I'm Kyla Mills. A busy week in the world of the Big Ten. We've got a full slate of Big Ten men's hoops coming your way. Rafael Davis will be joining us in just a bit. And then on the football side, so much going on with the CFP bracket coming into full swing, plus the Heisman Trophy award ceremony being held this weekend. To help us digest all of that information, we have Yogi Roth joining us now from the best coast. Yogi, great to see you. Out here in the Midwest, we're digging out of about a foot of snow, hopefully a little bit different where you're at. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. The waves are 2 to 3 foot, so not necessarily snow, but we have a little swell, so that's a good thing out west.
Oh, just slightly jealous, just a little bit of where you're located there in Southern California. But we've got so much to talk about and that we're looking forward to. So let's start with today's big story. This week, the Heisman Trophy finalists were announced with 2 Big Ten quarterbacks preparing to make the trip to the Big Apple for that ceremony this weekend. Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza and Ohio State QB Julian Sayin were named 2 of the 4 finalists. Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia and Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love round out that group. All will take the stage in New York City on Saturday, where the Heisman Trophy winner will be announced. So unfortunately, you're going from the warm weather out to the East Coast and some chilly weather, Yogi, to be there in person for that ceremony. So much was made of whether or not this Big Ten championship game would truly decide who wins the Heisman Trophy. Is it Julian Sayin? Is it Fernando Mendoza? How much do you factor in the result of that game? And what do you feel like is the outlook for those 2 QBs?
Yeah, well, what's amazing is that depending who you talk to and what their zip code is, you'll get a totally different opinion and a different answer. I'm kind of surprised that there's a big push for Diego Pavia, so kind of curious how that shakes out for him and where it nets out for him. But when it comes to the 2 coming out of the Big Ten, to me, they've been the 2 most consistent quarterbacks in the country all season long. They've competed at an elite level all season long. And to your point, they deface one another. So as a voter, I don't like just going off of one game. I actually have a 10-point scale that I'll evaluate and did over the weekend and as the season progressed, as you're kind of looking at different candidates. And competitive dominance is clearly number 1. And you saw that on the grandest of stage. As you kind of go through that list, winning the conference to me matters. So that's a tilt, I think, towards Fernando. At least it was for me. And then you look at performance on big stages, and both of them shined. I mean, look at the Michigan game and what Julian Sayin did. Heck, look at the Texas game to kick off the season, and so many throughout the year. He just met the moment. And as did Fernando Mendoza. And I think we're always looking for these quote-unquote Heisman moments. I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but for those that do, and there's over 900 voters, so I don't know all of the ways in which they do vote, but if they go down that road of Heisman moment, you cannot ignore the slant to Elijah Surratt against Iowa, the back shoulder throw against the Ducks, of course, Omar Cooper, Penn State, and then Charlie Becker in the Big Ten championship game this past weekend. So those moments, I think, may end up tilting the scale for Fernando Mendoza. And just imagine that, right? You look at those logos of those teams that are up there. Who would have thought Vanderbilt? Who would have thought Indiana? And I think it's just a beautiful illustration of where we are in college football alongside a blue blood like Notre Dame and, of course, Ohio State. Every time I'm at the Heisman, I feel like there's always somebody from the Buckeyes represented there. So net neutral, I don't know who will win, but I do know this, having been there. It is such a beautiful evening. It is such a unique opportunity. I love that the Heisman Trust invited 4 players. I wish they invited 7 because it's just such a cool opportunity to be there, be loved on, and I'm looking forward to that. And I think it's good for both of the quarterbacks that they don't play in the first round. I was kind of curious what would happen if you did have a first-round game. Like, you'd be in game week preparation. They both obviously have a bye, so whoever wins it hopefully will be celebrating, get on a plane, come on back to their respective community and get after it, and hopefully take a run, and maybe we'll be lucky. Maybe we'll see them play each other again in Sayin and Mendoza in the national championship. How fun would that be?
It would be super fun. It really would be the cherry on top of what's been a fantastic season for not just Mendoza, but this entire Indiana program. Curt Cignetti's vision almost coming to fruition, but they've got one more thing to check off the list, and that is a national championship. Indiana continuing the storybook season in Pasadena as we take a look at the college football playoff bracket. revealed this week. The top-seeded Hoosiers set to face either Oklahoma or Alabama in a Rose Bowl CFP quarterfinal. Number 2 Ohio State kicks off the defense of its CFP title at a Cotton Bowl quarterfinal against the winner of a first-round game between Texas A&M and Miami. Oregon is the number 5 seed and plays the first ever playoff game at Autzen on December 20th against James Madison. Let's dive a little bit deeper, Yogi, into the number 5 seed in the Oregon Ducks. They get the opportunity to play at home, which is a unique opportunity against the James Madison team that they're going to have to do a lot of studying on. There's a lot new with a program they have not faced very often and 2 coaching staffs that do not know each other. But how much do you expect the home field advantage to be a factor, and what else are you looking forward to in that matchup?
Oh, there's so much. I mean, let's just put the game to the side. I mean, that's going to be amazing. But you look at the arena, right? The atmosphere in Autzen. I was just in Eugene a couple days ago spending time with Dan Lanning and athletic director Rob Mullins. And there is a beautiful joy in terms of this community saying, we get a home playoff game, something that's never been done in the history of college football. Like, let's go. So expect Autzen to be as loud as it has ever been. And then you look at the trenches. Just look at what happened earlier today. Joe Moore Award finalists. The Oregon Ducks are one of the 3 finalists, along with 2 teams from the Big Ten. So all Big Ten and Iowa and Indiana, respectively, as well. And I think that's what will be the difference in this ball game. It'll be in the trenches. The Ducks, I would expect to be fully healthy, at least on the offense and defensive fronts entering this game. We'll see at the receiver position how healthy they can get. And then they're going to face a team in JMU that, what a run they've been on, right? Bob Chesney, of course, will be announced as UCLA's new head coach later on today. So that's kind of fun because UCLA does go up to Autzen next year, so he'll get a glimpse of it. But the reality is Oregon is the more talented team. The other reality is JMU is going to come in with an edge, so they will leave it all on the grass. We haven't seen crazy upsets in the CFP. I don't think we'll see one in this first round matchup, but you'll see everything you can imagine from JMU. It'll be fun to get a glimpse of what Coach Chesney is like. But for the Ducks, I think this team has been quietly under the radar. I think they have all the talent and all the tools to take a run and go win the whole thing. They've got the offensive defensive lines. They have elite players in the back end. They got the skill, and they got the quarterback in Dante Moore, who up until a couple weeks ago, I would have thought he would have found his way to New York City as well. Just elite arm talent. You watch any YouTube video, and you see Dan Lanning and the motivation, so that won't be an issue. So I expect the Ducks to advance, but I can't wait to get up there to see what the atmosphere in Autzen will be like for a playoff game.
You brought up that battle in the trenches. Oregon's defensive front has easily been one of the best in the nation all season long. Going to be really interesting to see how they respond to a JMU team, top 10 in the country in rushing yards. That's going to be one to look forward to coming up on December 20th in Eugene. All right, let's talk more about the number 1 overall seed, the Indiana Hoosiers, Yogi, because who doesn't love talking about the Hoosiers at this point in the season? In the CFP, they're going to be facing the winner of Alabama-Oklahoma in the quarterfinal round. This is a group coming off their first Big Ten championship outright since 1945. There seems to be something really, really special happening in Bloomington. However, I do have the take that sometimes there's added pressure, and it's actually a little bit more difficult to go into a playoff run undefeated. Would you agree or disagree? And what's the focus in your eyes for the Hoosiers as they look ahead?
Yeah, I mean, look no further than Oregon last year in the Rose Bowl and the rematch against Ohio State. You know, it's going to be an elite game regardless of opponent. It's going to be a blast. Like, you could already kind of feel the bias towards the history of one of their potential opponents versus the history of Indiana football. But here's what we know with Curt Cignetti and what was confirmed in the championship game is that this team, at least in through my lens, is they do not ride the wave of emotions or the wave of hype. They have come out really for the last 2 years since he has taken over for the most part, and unless they are overmatched, which was Ohio State and Notre Dame last year, and Coach Cignetti has talked about that, they have met the moment and been really steady. And I look just to the sheer factor that this is a veteran-laden team. Look at all the teams in the CFP and look at upperclassmen starters on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. Indiana has the most. They have 20 projected starters when healthy, and nobody else has that. And you look back in history, Michigan, Ohio State, even when Washington played Michigan for the national championship a couple years ago, that was those teams. They had this veteran-laden team, this business-like mentality. And I think for all of us, as we're kind of filling out our brackets, you're like, all right, is the story going to continue? Is it a Cinderella story? And then you get to the truth, and you're like, the defense flies around, they attack, they make life miserable for opposing offenses. look no further than Ohio State and the havoc they created in the backfield led by defensive coordinator Brian Haynes. And then on the other side, they have weapons. They run the football. They have an offensive line. Just reference the Joe Moore Award. They're one of the 3 finalists as well coming out of the Big Ten. So I don't think they're overmatched. So I think if the nation is saying, well, is the story going to end? You got to look further. You got to look at the film. You got to look at how they've played and how consistent they have played, especially when they've had to meet the moment. The Rose Bowl is a moment. It is different, but because of Coach Cignetti's experience and his acumen and the way he's led this team, I don't have any reason to believe that whether they're undefeated or had a loss, like it'd be any different. And I think that's how steady they have been since he's taken over in Bloomington.
So much has been made of Indiana's offense, but the defense, Yogi, in that Big Ten championship game against an Ohio State team as good as any in the country, holding them to 10 points, to me, maybe wasn't talked about enough. And we do have to talk more about the Ohio State Buckeyes, though, who are coming off of that loss, now the number 2 seed in the CFP, the college football playoff picture. They're going to face the winner of Miami and Texas A&M in the CFP quarterfinal round. We heard from head coach Ryan Day, this loss or that loss in the Big Ten championship is going to sting for this group. But as we saw 1 year ago after the loss against Michigan, what happened? This is a group that found a way. They came together, they won out, and they ended up with a championship to show for it. Do you see something similar happening for the Buckeyes this season?
I do. And I think what he referenced earlier this weekend or after the game was when you play in games like this, that they just did against Indiana, the truth is what is shown on tape. And I go back to like their first game of the season against Texas. Like you get a big time marquee matchup. So you need to see where your team is really at. You don't necessarily see that if you play 3 non-conference games where you win by 50. So he got to the truth early and he's gotten to the truth late. And now they have enough time because of the bye to say, all right, what do we need to fix? And if there's one thing I believe more than any in college football is the competitive depth that Ryan Day has within his program, within the walls of that facility, is as good, if not better, than anybody in America. I think when you go out there and you watch this team practice, every drill, every period is as competitive as it can be. Now you're coming off a loss, to your point, where they were not as efficient as they've been all season long. They got exposed in certain areas, pass protection being the main one. How do you address it? I expect it will be addressed, and I think this team can go on a run. I think they're going to have an opportunity, and I fully expect them to find their way back to the national championship. They got the best player, I think, in the world in Jeremiah Smith. They got a quarterback who's going to New York City. They'll shore up the offensive front. Defensively, they're elite. So I don't think just because of a loss, it's whoa. Is this a different team? And I love that the committee kept them at number 2 versus dropping them even further because of the loss in the title game. And I think that's reflective of who they are and what the reality is. So Ryan Day and his staff, they've been there before. They haven't overreacted. They'll get to the truth, and they'll shore it up, whether that's scheme, personnel, play calling, what have you. But I can't imagine anybody in this playoff run finding their way into the backfield for over 5 sacks in a game. I just can't imagine they're going to allow that one to happen just based on what they saw in the Big Ten title game. So I think the Buckeyes actually go on a run.
Not to get ahead of ourselves, but I look at if this championship came down to Indiana and Ohio State, like everything had to go right for the Hoosiers to take down the Buckeyes in the Big Ten championship game. Can you run it back? Can you do it again? That is going to be a huge ask for this Indiana Hoosiers team, having a really special unbeaten season. Of course, the Big Ten searching for their 3rd consecutive national championship. What a spot to be in if you're a Big Ten fan in the college football scene. All right, well, coming up more. It is a special day here on the Big Ten Network because we have some hardware to give out. Today, a Big Ten player will join this elite list you see on the left side of your screen as a winner of the Chicago Tribune Silver Football Award, which is given out to the best college football player in the Big Ten Conference. The Silver Football has been given out since 1924, predating the Heisman Trophy by 11 years. It is one of the most prestigious honors in the sport, and we are going to find out the winner momentarily among a list of really good candidates. Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza just led the Hoosiers to the Big Ten championship and the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. Ohio State quarterback Julian Sayin has been among the nation's best by all of the metrics while leading the Buckeyes to the number 2 seed in the CFP. And one of his favorite targets, Ohio State wide receiver Jeremiah Smith, top 10 in the nation in receiving touchdowns, receiving yards, and more. Also a huge part of the Buckeyes' success this year. As you mentioned, the Silver Football Award is about to be given out, and to do exactly that, we have Bob Kreisman joining us, first vice president of the Union League Club of Chicago. Bob, thanks so much for stopping by. I appreciate you trekking out amongst the snow. Glad to have you here.
No, it's a pleasure, and it's a delight. The Union League Club of Chicago, formed in 1879, houses the Silver Football, and in coordination with the Tribune, it is a pleasure to make the announcement of the winner. Am I about to do that?
We're about to do that. Before we get to that, though, for folks who are unfamiliar, Bob, what is the history of this Chicago Tribune Silver Football Award, and what is its significance?
Well, it's very significant in that the award's been given out since 1924. Some of the greats, including the first, Red Grange, number 77 from the University of Illinois, up to Dylan Gabriel last year, and Ada Hutchinson, and I can go on and on, Charles Woodson. There are some great players that played in the Big Ten that have been who've gotten this prestigious award. And the Union League Club is delighted to be the home of it, and honored, in fact, to have it.
You mentioned the list of greats, Saquon Barkley, one of the best players in the NFL on that list. I mean, it really does go on. But it is now time. Can we get a drum roll, please, before we find out and you officially announce the winner of this year's Chicago Tribune Silver Football Award?
I'll do this deliberately. The winner is Fernando Mendoza.
There you have it, Fernando Mendoza, the Chicago Tribune Silver Football winner. Easily one of the most accomplished quarterbacks in all of college football this season. His 33 touchdown passes is tops in the nation. He just helped seal the Big Ten championship for the Hoosiers, their first Big Ten title since 1967, first outright title since 1945. Joining us now for today's big interview is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza. Great to see you, my friend. The awards have been pouring in for you as the season rolls on. Now you can add the Chicago Tribune Silver Football Award winner. What does it mean for you to win this honor?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to be on the Big Ten Network. The Chicago Tribune Silver Football Award. What a historic award. What an iconic award. Been around for over 100 years, dating back to the first winner, Red Grange. What an honor to be in a group with such amazing award winners, and I'm just so honored and blessed.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, this isn't the only honor that not only you've won already, but are up for. Just this week, we learned that you're a Heisman Trophy finalist, again, among elite company. What are you looking forward to about that ceremony, and what would the significance be for you of winning that award?
The Heisman Award would be so phenomenal for so many people around. It takes a village, and it's, like I've said before, it's truly a team award. It is not a player award. I know it means so much being the first Hoosier to be able to win the award, bring it back to Bloomington, but also all the family and support staff that have supported me throughout the way and in my journey. It would mean a lot to a lot of people. And just like I like to make an analogy, is my football career is a bunch of stars in the sky, and stars get their light through other stars off reflection. And the only reason that I'm able to shine right now is because I have so many stars in my life, whether it's coaches, teammates, or family that are so great around myself.
Spoken like a true team-first guy. You love to hear it. As we're talking about individual awards, your team just winning the Big Ten championship. I know the job isn't done, but looking back at this year, what are you the most proud of?
I'm most proud of the connection that I've made in this locker room. The connection that I have with my brothers here in this locker room is truly special, and it makes winning the Big Ten championship mean that much more. We took down the #1 team in the nation, Ohio State, which is a fantastic opponent and also a Big Ten opponent. At that point, they're by far the best team in the country, and it was such a great honor to be able to play them. And hopefully we get to see them again in the college football playoff, as they're a great team, great defense. But winning the Big Ten championship and winning it for the first time since, I think, World War II and bringing that back to Bloomington, it was such a special experience, and it's such a team effort, and I know that everybody in the entire program was extremely excited for it.
You've done your homework, Fernando. Very good. We do got to dial in a little bit deeper on that championship game. You came up with clutch play after clutch play, including that 33-yard strike to Charlie Becker on 3rd down. What's going through your mind in those kind of high-pressure moments that allows you to deliver in the way that you do?
I think the real I think the real advantage to our team is that we've been battle tested throughout the year. Whether it was playing Iowa, at Oregon, at Penn State, we've been able to have different feathers in our caps every fourth quarter comeback that we've had, whether it's any of those 3 really tough battle-tested games. And so when we got in these clutch situations at the end of the fourth quarter against Ohio State, we went in the huddle saying, we've been there, we've done that, it's just time to seal out the game, this is what we do. We're battle-tested, and we rise to the occasion when the lights are bright. And at that point, our offensive lineman blocked great. I was able to throw the ball to Charlie Becker, and it was a 33-yard gain, like you said, and we moved the chains. As whenever those pressure moments get high, our blood pressure decreases and goes low because we have ice in our veins, and we are ready for those moments, as we've had a lot of feathers in our caps as we've been battle-tested throughout the year in a multitude of fashions.
Your interview post-game with Jenny Taft has somewhat gone viral. I think it's at viral status, it's fair to say, after you called your team flipping champs, which is one of the most wholesome things I've seen on the internet. But where did some of the emotion come from during that interview?
The emotion, it all came from how much it meant to everybody around myself. I know how much everyone's worked for this in Bloomington. And like you said, the job's not finished. But at that point, I was so happy for everybody on the team. And emotion just overwhelmed myself because it really settled in that we'd beaten Ohio State and we're going to be the #1 team in the country. And at that point, emotion, like I said, it took myself over, and I couldn't really hide it. I maybe looked in the camera a little bit too intense and said flippin' instead of another word I wanted to say. However, I hope it came off genuine and authentic because that's what it really was. And what a great reporter, Mrs. Taft. And it was just such a great opportunity to be in front of the nation and going viral, but hopefully for a good reason.
It was. It came across as very genuine. I don't know anyone who watched that clip and didn't smile because you could feel the emotion coming through the screen. But looking back to just about a year ago, you made the commitment to transfer into Indiana from the University of California, the Bay Area. Something about the vision that Curt Cignetti had for this program drew you in. Was this what you were envisioning in making the move? And how have you seen maybe what you envisioned now play out and come to reality?
I was envisioning success. I wasn't envisioning this amount of success. However, it's been such a great program to be a part of. Coach Cignetti sold myself on being the best quarterback and best Fernando Mendoza that I can become, and that was a selling point that I went all in on. At this point, I think I've made a huge jump this year and have become the best Fernando Mendoza quarterback that I could become this year. And I'm just ready to improve throughout the playoffs and improve in the next years of my career. However, it's such a special group of guys that we've been able to have this multitude and magnitude of success this year, and just looking forward to keeping the ball rolling.
As you mentioned, you still got the CFP ahead as this group tries to get to the mountaintop of college football. What is the focus like right now as you start to prepare and look ahead to either facing Alabama or Oklahoma?
Yes, Alabama, Oklahoma, 2 fantastic SEC opponents. At this point, our next game will be January 1st, so we do have some time off. Coach Cignetti is taking the approach that we're going to treat these next 2 weeks as bye weeks. We're still going to practice. We're still going to keep our fundamentals sharp. We're still going to keep our brain sharp as far as football IQ goes and opponent scout goes. However, we're going to let our bodies take a rest so that when we get to that game week, we're going to be energized and ready to be the Indiana Hoosiers everybody knows.
It's so interesting. I was just talking to someone off camera about this in terms of what the approach is from players when you do get a couple weeks. Like, do you prefer it because you have the time to rest, or does it interrupt momentum? Or are you guys looking at that as a positive?
Yeah, we're looking at it as a positive, as it's been a long season. We played 13 games. We've been honored enough to win all 13 games, which is great. However, especially football is such a physical sport. I think it's always great to take a week off or 2 weeks off, especially for, the more physical positions, whether it be the offense and defensive line or linebackers or running backs, in order to gain some juice back. And there's always this mantra about momentum and you want to keep the ball rolling. However, our team has the same process every single week, which allows it to keep momentum rolling. And I know confidence is high in the building, and I know that will carry over to January 1st.
On a personal note, joining Indiana meant you get to play alongside your brother Alberto, who's also a quarterback. In addition to that connection with him, I know you've talked about how much your family support has meant to you along this journey. How have they helped you get to the point where you're at today?
My family has been my everything. My mom, my dad, they've shown me what true parents and what true love and passion is. They are so special to me. My mom fights every single day, and she's my inspiration. She shows me her optimism, as well as my brother. My brother has been guiding me throughout this journey here at Indiana. Without my brother, I would not be in this position. He's helped me not only learn the playbook, learn the locker room, but also just get adjusted to the town and city of Bloomington itself. My brother actually got into play in the Big Ten Championship after I got knocked out for a play. So that was a great experience for him to get some little battle tested there. And it's been such a special experience. My brother and I were talking about it the other night, saying this would be an experience playing with each other at the highest level of collegiate football, being the #1 team in the nation. We're going to talk about that for a long time when we eventually become grandparents and are 65 years old, sitting in a rocking chair. We're going to talk about the times how we shared a place in college with some other college roommates, and how we just were able to share the room together and play college football together. What a special experience for all of us, and my family included.
Those are going to be some epic story times, that's for sure. You brought up your mom, Elsa, fighting. Specifically, she deals with MS, a neurological condition that you guys have continued to raise awareness for. How has she inspired you to continue to chase your dreams?
Yeah, my mom and my dad both fighting MS has been such an inspiration for myself. It's such a tough disease, and unfortunately right now there's no cure. However, seeing their fight, seeing their optimism, seeing them attack every single new treatment, every single physical therapy is truly an inspiration for myself. It never gives myself an excuse to have a bad day, bad practice, bad lift. And my mom has been such an emotional support for myself. I call her around 5 times a day, I would say. And having my mom always in my corner means so much to me, and that emotional support, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, she's always giving me advice, always uplifting my confidence, always uplifting myself, and also telling me things that I might not want to hear sometimes as well. So having her in my corner has helped me so much throughout this journey, as well as my dad.
What kind of advice does mom give you during those 5 phone calls a day?
Well, we always go about how's your day going.
Sure.
And if I say, hey, if I had a bad practice or something like that, she'd be like, hey, you got next practice, or hey, I had a great practice, or I'm really excited. I won the Chicago Tribune Silver Football Award. She'd be like, hey, that's not what you got to focus on. You got to focus on beating Oklahoma or Alabama. So she makes sure to lift me up and yet keep me grounded. What a great mom does.
Real quickly, before we let you go, you promised me a fun fact. What is something that the average person does not know about Fernando Mendoza?
What the average person does not know about Fernando Mendoza is that I would say I'm ultra competitive. For example, we have a ping pong table here in the locker room. We love playing ping pong, whether it's playing ping pong or playing pickleball. I'm a big racket sports guy, and I like to think I'm pretty good at it as well. And so those are 2 things that I would say are fun facts about me. Also, I cooked a breakfast sandwich last night because I just felt like cooking, and I said it was pretty good. So I could also be another fun fact. I wouldn't say I'm a great cook, but I'm a really good breakfast sandwich cook.
Those are 2 great fun facts. Now, who's the ping pong champion on the team? Is it you? Confirm or deny that?
I would like to say I'm a self-proclaimed champ. However, in these next 2 weeks, in our mental rest off after practice, we're going to have some time. And there is, all of a sudden, one day in the locker room, this WWE belt with 2 ping pong balls popped up randomly. No one knows who put it there. Like, literally nobody knows who put it there. And I think we're going to need to play a ping pong tournament for it. So I'm not going to self-proclaim myself champion. However, there's a lot of guys in the team who are very skilled at ping pong. And we've been starting to play doubles ping pong, which is very interesting because football players are usually very big human beings, and the ping pong table is not very large, so everybody's bumping shoulders, trying to get to the ball, and it's quite the sight to see.
That's great stuff. We're going to have to follow up to get some of that footage that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Fernando, thank you so much for the time. Thanks for stopping by, and best of luck moving forward in the CFP.
Thank you so much. God bless. Go Hoosiers.
It is time now for today's Big Stat, sponsored by Gatorade. The second-ranked Michigan Wolverines just rolling through the non-conference slate, 8-0 for the first time in 5 years. And they're outscoring opponents by 28 points, which is the 4th best scoring margin in the country. Rafael Davis is already giggling. Wolverines have put up 100-plus points in the last 3 games. That's something that hasn't happened in my lifetime or this guy's lifetime. They've done all of that, too, against quality opponents, beating 3 teams that made the NCAA tournament last year. And joining us now to talk about all of that and much more is one Rafael Davis, again giggling as we were talking about just the ridiculous stuff that we've seen from the second-ranked Michigan Wolverines so far, taking on Villanova tonight. 8-0, already looking like a Final Four team. Not to get ahead of ourselves, I know it's only early December, but Dusty May has done it again. This is a team that offensively has been really good, but then defensively also has been really sound.
Oh, yeah.
What stood out to you the most?
I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm saying Michigan is going to a national championship because we know they can score the basketball. We know they have Bigger Day Mara down low, Morez Johnson on the offensive glass. Yaxel Lindenberg is a matchup nightmare for any opponent across America. And then they got really good guard play between Elliot Cadeau, Namari Burnett, a knockdown shooter, Roddy Gale coming off of the bench, a guy in Trey McKinney who's going to play at the highest level of basketball is their eighth man. When you got an NBA player coming off of your bench, it makes you have a great team. You look at that Michigan team from 2013 when you had Trey Burke, you had Nick Stauskas, you had Hardaway, Mitch McGarry, all those dudes. But Karis LeVert was the eighth man. And when you have a guy like that on your bench, like they do in the Trey McKinney, that gives you a chance any game. So we know they can score it offensively. They can beat you in a lot of ways. But I'm more impressed with their defense, their size, their length, their athleticism. No weak link is on that Michigan roster. All 9 guys that play in the game can defend at a high level, from the guards to the bigs. Adai Mara is one of the best rim protectors that we have seen in the Big Ten since A.J. Hammond's at Purdue in 2015, 2016. Roddy Gale is one of the better perimeter defenders that you will see. They go 7'5", 6'11", 6'9", 6'5", 6'2", and then they bring off Will Shetter and those guys off the bench. This team is loaded on both ends of the floor. I don't see Michigan losing for a while.
I mean, that kind of length, both offensively and defensively, how do you get past that? Also, going back to Mara, one of my favorite points of the season, he's a UCLA transfer, by the way, was going back to last year. He didn't play for the Bruins, suddenly got inserted into the game and put up like 18 points, and you're like, holy crap, is this what this team had available on the bench? And Dusty May has gone into the portal and found players like Mara, like Morez Johnson Jr. over at Illinois, who maybe the situation wasn't working out for them where they were, but he saw the best in them and has been able to bring out the best of them with this roster of players he's put together. It's truly, truly impressive. Now, this Michigan Wolverines team looking to keep their unbeaten run going as they take on Villanova tonight. Now, Michigan was a team a lot of people expected to be among the best in the nation coming into the season. A team that was not is the Nebraska Cornhuskers, now into the top 25, 9-0. This is their highest ranking since 2014. The last time they were ranked, Rafael Davis was playing. He was on a basketball court, I swear, for Purdue. But my question is this Huskers team for real, Rafael?
Yeah, before we get to this Huskers team, I want to talk about that Huskers team.
Okay,
because
fair.
seeing Terran Petway is going to give me nightmares tonight. He talks so much trash. Siobhan Shields on that team, just big time. Because this team this season reminds me a little bit about that team, the way they go about it. Just toughness, grit, pride, doing the little things. They fight you, they guard you, and then they have some really good players that when the game gets close and they need a basket, they can go to them. Because I love what Coach Hoiberg has done with this roster, how they approaching the games that they're going out and playing. They're doing it in a defensive way. They're doing it with their defense, their hustle, their pride, their intangibles. They're getting deflections, and that there sets the table because Nebraska's defense is big time. Held a really good Creighton team to 50 points on 30% from the floor. All of those guys are locked in. They follow scout report. They're in gaps. They're big. They're strong. You got a star in Rink Mask who any given night, he can give you 20, 10, and 5. Already had a triple-double this season. I love the addition of Price Sanford. 16 points a game on the season. Already 4 20-point games. He's playing in that Keisei Tominaga role. And then my guy, Sam Hoiberg. Sam Hoiberg is becoming my favorite player to watch in the Big Ten. He is the ultimate glue guy. He'll guard you. He'll fight you. He'll hustle. He'll dive on the floor. He does not care how many times he shoots the ball, doesn't care about scoring. Sam Hoiberg just cares about winning. And when you get a Sam Hoiberg that cares about winning, but then can also give you 15 and 5 against a Creighton, it really makes for a really, really sound team. You add back in Jamarcus Lawrence. You have the freshman Frager. This Nebraska team is really, really sound, really, really talented. They're locked in the locker room. And sometimes when you're maybe not as talented, but your guys play hard and you have a really good locker room and a really good culture, you're going to win games in this conference. And I really like where Nebraska is right now.
This is another team where, in my opinion, you have to give credit to the coaching staff. Head coach Fred Hoiberg has everyone bought in what they're trying to do defensively, the toughness he wants to see from them, and then the different roles that he wants players to take on. You mentioned whether it's a glue player, whether it's someone coming in off the bench, everyone seems to be on the same page, and that culture has made a huge difference. You also look back to last year, they won the inaugural crown, closed out the season with a ton of momentum, have brought that straight into this start to the 2025-26 campaign. Really impressive stuff for the Huskers. Rafael, we'll give you a quick break, but don't go too far. We've got a lot more to dive. Coast after a search that lasted nearly 2 months and had no shortage of drama. Penn State has found its head man. Matt Campbell officially introduced as the Nittany Lions head football coach on Monday, ending a story that began with the dismissal of James Franklin back in mid-October. Campbell has done nothing but win in his coaching career, and he sees no reason for that to change now.
The first thing I can do is not be a hindrance to this great team. They have done, again, to watch these guys climb back, it's been super impressive. And my respect for Terry and for the seniors on this football team, man, going to win 4 in a row, that's huge. And so I think we'll figure out, Terry and I, where's the best place, that I can not be a hindrance to this team. It allows me to be able to really start to kind of build for this 26 team, and yet still be around. And again, that relationships piece really start to develop that relationship with our players. So I'm going to have to, honestly, I'm going to have to walk a really fine line, because that's going to be a unique challenge. But I do look forward to it, and it's a great question. And I don't know if I have the perfect answer, because I think I'm going to have to work through it day by day.
There you have it, the next head coach of the Penn State Nittany Lions, as we say hello to Yogi once again. The Nittany Lions in a bit of an interesting situation as they get ready for the Pinstripe Bowl, where they will face Clemson. Right now, interim head coach Terry Smith still leading the way, and they have the chance to go out with a bang here in this 2025 season. What is there to be gained, Yogi, for the Nittany Lions in this bowl game?
Well, I think whenever there's chaos within a program, especially when a coach gets let go in the style in which it happened at Penn State, among all the seasons these players will play in their football lives, they're going to remember this one. They're going to remember the details. They're going to remember the hard times. They're going to remember the loss. They're going to remember the moment that Coach Franklin was let go. They're going to remember the press conference we saw with Matt Campbell. And they're going to remember how they finish it. And that's what I love about this opportunity. He referenced it, an opportunity to finish on a really high note. And he even said it in his presser earlier of, who doesn't love a comeback? And that's what this team has been. They get to right their wrongs of the season, finish it with a statement, and then create some momentum. And then for him, he gets to evaluate this roster. Let's not forget what is coming in early January with the portal opening up. So I think there's a ton of opportunity to show up for your new coach, but most importantly, finish something with your teammates that never went exactly as planned. So that, to me, that stood out in a huge way. And I think there's other storylines also. When you look at these bowl games, I mean, there's some big-time opportunities for Michigan and USC. Look at them. These two teams have an opportunity to get to 10 wins. So for Bryce Underwood, what is a really young team, a really young offensive line? How do they navigate this opportunity against the blue blood in Texas? We know a lot of teams aren't happy they weren't in the playoff. Texas, I know, is one of those teams that isn't happy. So do they show up in the form of Steve Sarkisian's team when they're at their best, or do they hang their heads? Michigan, they're not going to care. They're going to come out and play their best because they're such a young team and so much to play for. And I'd say the same thing for the Trojans. They get an opportunity in the Alamo Bowl to play a TCU team. Can they get to 10? I'd anticipate a core group of this team coming on back. We know what they did on signing day, number one class in the country. I mean, there is a big opportunity. I think we talk bowl games all the time of opt-outs and who wants to play, who doesn't want to play. I think for these teams that we're talking about, Penn State, Michigan, and SC, I don't think you'll see a lot of those. I don't think you'll see a lot of opt-outs, maybe potentially for the draft at SC, but overall, everything I've heard, guys want to finish it. And I think there's something to the culture that the head coaches have built, and I'm looking forward to seeing if these teams can get to double-digit wins.
For USC, that would be huge under Lincoln Riley to get back to that double-digit win threshold. This team taking a big step forward this year. Then you look at another team that's taken a big step forward, and that's the Washington Huskies. In year 2 under Jed Fish, they have the opportunity to secure 9 wins after 6 wins in his first year at the helm of that program. You've seen a lot of positive movement forward, both offensively and defensively, with their quarterback seemingly determined for next year. That's, of course, pending chaos in the transfer portal, which we know is always possible. However, what are you watching for when it comes to Washington taking on Boise State in the LA Bowl?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's Chris Peterson, right? I think it's like the Chris Peterson Bowl a little bit. Like he was at Boise and then he was at UW. But I think bottom line for Jed Fish, think about what he walked into. He walked into this program and there was nobody there. They had 7 offensive linemen his first spring football. And now 2 years later, I get it, they're not playing in the CFP like Indiana is, but they had a shot to get to the CFP. I mean, this team was close late in the season. They were banged up. Now, can they get healthy? And I love the LA Bowl, not just because it's down here in Southern California, but because it's immediate. It happens fast. It's before the holidays. It's before the portal. So I think it's good for this team. Talk to some members of that staff. They're excited to get down here to LA. They'll come on down tomorrow. They'll start practicing, and they'll get right into the game. And they're going to get the best of Boise State. Boise State, they had playoff aspirations. They were hoping to return to the CFP. They obviously did not. So this will be a big-time game. It'll be fun to get it at SoFi, watch these teams battle out. But I'm looking forward. Can UW get to 9 wins? And they've got a really young team. Look at Damon Williams. Does Denzel Boston decide to come back? They got multiple freshmen on the defensive side that are big-time. And the offensive line, I mean, John Mills and company, I mean, they've got some elite players up there. So I'm buying on UW. Next year, don't be shocked if we're talking about them as a top 12 team, a CFP team under Jed Fish with the talent of Damon Williams and company.
Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to there in Seattle. Yogi, it's time to let you go. You going to go hop on your surfboard, or what's next there with the 3-foot waves out in L.A.?
Well, I'm going to go race and check out Bob Chesney, see this press conference, and then, yes, my board will be in the car, wetsuit in tow, and we will get after it because it is a perfect day in Southern California.
Not stereotyping at all the fact that you're in Southern California. But great stuff. Great to see you. We look forward to your coverage this weekend as well at the Heisman Trophy ceremony.
Thanks for having me.
Full Tuesday night ahead in men's hoops as well. We'll have coverage coming up tonight on some of these games. Villanova taking on second-ranked Michigan. Of course, a familiar face leading Villanova, the Wildcats, and Kevin Willard. Penn State and Indiana go toe-to-toe in a Big Ten conference matchup. Illinois and Ohio State will do the same. And then USC out west taking on San Diego. Also, the Illini were living it up in Nashville, or should I say Smashville, last weekend after a huge top 15 win over Tennessee at Music City Madness. This is straight up madness. They were told not to break the guitar. Of course they had to break the guitar. 75-62, by the way, the final score of that game. Rafa, what's the craziest thing you did during a locker room celebration that you can say on TV?
Oh, threw water on Coach Paint. That's probably the best I can say on TV. We lost the buzzer beater to Michigan at home when they were really good, and I broke a chair. But
broke a chair?
Yeah, I don't know.
You? No, you're a gentle giant. I don't believe it.
But when you play with the fight that that Illinois played against Tennessee when they had that big comeback, that big bounce back win after losing to UConn, you can break a guitar because I love that type of passion. Because this is the Illinois team that I love to watch. I love Illinois when they play tough, when they grind it out, when they guard you, when they fight you, because that matches the temperament of Coach Brad Underwood. And your team has to take on your temperament as a coach. And that was the Illinois team that I hope stays for the rest of the season, because big shout out to Kylan Boswell. He was the difference maker on both ends of the floor. Jacoby Gillespie, we watched him a lot at Maryland. Now at Tennessee, he's one of the best guards in the country. Kylan just put him in a straitjacket, took him out of the game, held him to 6 for 15 from the field, took him out completely, and that bled into the rest of the Illinois squad. That type of defense to go along with the playmaking of a Keaton Wagler getting to the lane with shot-making ability of both Ivisic brothers. We know what David Markovic can bring them. I really love what Illinois put down the other night.
Ohio State's really going to be tested. They're going to have to bring the rebounding, the physicality against this really good Illinois team. For the Buckeyes, though, they're off to a pretty good start this year. 7-1, just got a win in their Big Ten opener against Northwestern, which was apparently the coming-out party for one forward, Brandon Noel, who nearly had a 30-piece. But what stood out to you about the Buckeyes so far?
Yeah, you know what you get with Bruce Thornton. Went on the road, 17 points, 10 assists. But when you don't know about Ohio State coming into Northwestern is what do they do when the ball doesn't go in from deep? They go 4 for 14 from the three-point line, but they have 62 points in the paint at Northwestern, and that is the game. Brandon Noel showing out party 29-7.
Another game to look forward to, Indiana-Penn State coming up tonight as well. Don't throw any chairs, all right, before we go. Rafael, I did not know that you had it in you. Crazy man here.
I'm a crazy man. Ron Artest Jr.
He's a company man. That's what he is. Come on now. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Big Ten Today, brought to you by Gatorade. We'll see you next time.